So nice to see so many of you at the first session of the day. Um, I'd like to welcome Lisa Eveson, who's going to do a presentation on Empowering Tomorrow's Learners, a workshop on integrating artificial intelligence tools in student learning. Before I hand over to Lisa, I've just got a couple of housekeeping points, but I won't take up too much of Lisa's time. If you do want to ask a question, we recommend you put it into the Q&A function so that it doesn't get missed in the chat in case we have lots of conversation going on. But if you can't access that, then do put it in the chat and I'll do my best to keep track of it. If you'd prefer to put your hand up after the session, we will take some questions from the floor verbally as well. We might not get through them all, but we'll do our best. This session will be recorded, just so you're aware, and you can switch captions on in the settings, the accessibility settings of Teams. We ask all delegates to abide by the code of conduct, which you can find on the ALN website. And finally, I'm going to hand over to Lisa for our first session of the day. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks very much, Nicola. Slides are refusing to move. Just let me give it another go. Right, here we go. Right, so thank you very much for attending my session today, everyone. My name's Lisa Eveson, and I'm the Academic Librarian for Life Sciences at Teesside University, where I've been working 10 years. I have a master's research degree, as well as my library masters, and have worked at a number of libraries over the years. I have a long interest in the use of digital skills in learning and teaching, and have been involved in creating an induction for our library using virtual reality and Minecraft. Teesside University is an Adobe Creative campus, which I think some of my colleagues are going to say a little bit more about this afternoon. And I have used Adobe tools in creating online materials for students. AI was therefore a natural fit for my interests, so I started attending conferences and training events and doing reading into the area. Amongst the reading was the idea from Shah that we need to equip students with practical skills in artificial intelligence. He thinks that AI will continue progressing, so we need to prepare ourselves and our students for the age of AI by embracing the need to teach critical thinking skills, which are obviously a librarian's bread and butter, socio-emotional capabilities, computational thinking, and creativity. Therefore, I created an AI workshop designed to introduce students to AI tools, foster interactive learning, and provide guidance on responsible AI application. It was developed by library staff and addresses the pressing need for AI education within academic contexts, as outlined by Newman, Rauschenberger, and Schoen. They divide the need for AI education into 3 areas. Teaching, so that at the start of the course, teachers must specify in which areas and how AI may be used in their course, and talk about the possibility of integrating AI into teaching. Newman and Rauschenberger and Schoen recommend that students practice using the tool to explore the possibilities and limitations for specific use cases. For example, analysing source code or explaining something at different skills levels. They also specify curriculum, so they expect that lecturers will thoroughly discuss whether to include ChatGPT in the curriculum or any other AI tool, as sometimes this is not relevant to the course. And the final area is regulations, where they talk about re-evaluating the existing examination regulations to provide consistent rules for students. These ideas were used extensively when helping to create the university's AI policy, which I'll discuss later. The workshop itself is structured to engage students in a dynamic learning experience, combining theoretical insights with interactive activities, some of which we're going to look at in today's session. It explores the capabilities and limitations of AI, gaining an understanding of the scope of AI applications and the ethical considerations surrounding its use, as highlighted by Mapletoft et al., who felt that students need to develop the exercise of questioning and that the building of critical awareness is critically important. So I'm now going to say a little bit more about the context in which I work and Teesside University. So Teesside's vision is that it will be a leading university with an international reputation for academic excellence that provides an outstanding student and learning experience underpinned by research, enterprise, and the professions. The workshop I created is underpinned by this vision of providing an outstanding student and learning experience and has also been underpinned by the research I have undertaken. At Teesside, we have 22,500 students on campus, 1,200 odd global students, over 2,000 apprentices, and almost 2,500 online learners. Of our student body, around half are from the Northeast, and Teesside University is known for its commitment to widening participation in higher education. Many of its students come from backgrounds that are traditionally underrepresented in higher education, including first-generation university students and those from lower socio-economic groups. While the majority of students are in the typical university age range of 18 to 24, Teesside also attracts a significant number of mature students who may be returning to education later in life or pursuing a career change. Students come from a variety of academic backgrounds. Some have traditional A-level qualifications, whilst others might have completed vocational qualifications such as BTECs or equivalent. We also have around 8,300 postgraduates, most of whom are international. In order to develop the workshop for them, I looked at the JISC report on student perceptions of AI, which I know that Sue Attewell has already gone over in her keynote, but just to reiterate that it suggests that students are extensively utilising generative AI across academic and personal spheres. In writing, it aids in their idea generation, grammar correction, and structure improvement. For understanding, it clarifies the concepts they're looking at and aids revision. In maths and coding, it assists problem solving and provides coding support. Additionally, it streamlines research, enhances image creation, and helps their personal lives. Students' concerns include information literacy, data security, regulation, staff use, equity, and being over-reliant on the tools. And then Sue Attewell, in her recent blog, summarises how the research which was conducted by JISC in 2023 has been taken forward. So her team conducted 9 in-person forums last winter, which involved over 200 students, where they wanted to revisit the perceptions of the original report and identify emerging uses and concerns. In this blog, she outlines that most students use free tools like the AI tools for various tasks, including communication, learning, research, programming, and productivity, and that generative AI is seen as essential for crafting clear communication, aiding learning outside of class hours, streaming research, enhancing coding productivity, fostering creativity, and managing tasks. Notably, AI is increasingly viewed as a collaborative partner rather than just a tool. It's evolving into a digital coach with a marked shift towards active engagement and critical thinking in education. And students want practical training on how to use AI responsibly. This emphasis on using AI as a collaborative partner at Teesside, we use the term companion for learning, and also the idea of practical training and critical thinking in education and addressing student concerns is one of the cornerstones of the workshop. So we run a series of workshops called Succeed at Tees here at Teesside, and this started in 2011 when at the time our library and information services consulted with our academics to identify skills that students felt they needed for academic success. These started with generic workshops on referencing, and encouraged by positive feedback, they launched the Succeed at Tees workshop series in autumn. Over 50 workshop titles have been tried over the years and adapted based on student feedback, including adding evening sessions, flexible room layouts, online access, and social media promotion. When the pandemic hit in 2020, we transitioned to a full online programme, and now we continue to offer a hybrid programme of online and in-person workshops. Feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, with students finding the workshops clear, useful, and enjoyable. In terms of the aim of the workshop I developed, it's basically to introduce students to AI tools. So it covers what AI is, how it's appropriate to use AI tools in studies, ethical considerations, Teesside's rules, and next steps. The workshop aims to provide students with an introduction to the diverse array of AI tools available. And by introducing the students to these tools, it seeks to demystify AI and empower participants to engage confidently with these technologies in their academic pursuits. Through discussion, students gain understanding of using AI tools, enhancing their confidence in working with AI technologies. The workshop places a strong emphasis on actively engaging participants in the session, and interactive activities such as group discussions and real-world scenarios are incorporated. So, for example, the recent occasion in Glasgow, where AI had generated a fantastic-looking Willy Wonka experience, only for those going to the experience to be sorely disappointed at the offering of a drab industrial unit, poor scenery, and bad actors. This really helps set the scene and make real for participants the impact of AI. In terms of the structure, it's designed to provide structured engagement, ensuring that participants are involved at appropriate stages. The workshop strikes a balance between theoretical knowledge and everyday experience by integrating theoretical insights with interactive activities. Interactive activities such as group discussions complement theoretical learning by providing practical applications and real-world contexts. A key focus on the workshop is to equip participants with a nuanced understanding of AI capabilities and limitations. Understanding the limitations is important, as it enables participants to critically evaluate AI systems, identify potential biases, and mitigate ethical concerns. By fostering this awareness of AI capabilities and limitations, the workshop empowers participants to make informed choices about the ethical and responsible use of AI in academic, professional, and societal contexts. So I'm now going to hopefully share my screen and ask you to participate in an exercise on Mentimeter. I hope that one of my colleagues is going to put the link www.menti.com into the chat, and then there will be a code that will enable you to join the session. So the code is 35054125. And you should have 3 opportunities to tell me what you think are some of the negatives of generative AI. And this is an exercise that students do in the workshop. Just give people a few more moments to So I can see quite a lot of you are talking about things to do with plagiarism, aspects of bias, copyright, concerns. Those are the main sort of ones. And then in terms of sort of slightly concerns that haven't come up quite so much, things about lack of thought, not being critical, an inauthentic voice. So this is kind of all very interesting and exactly the sorts of things that I was expecting and hoping that you would say. I'm just going to share with you a slide that actually isn't in my original presentation. I hope I'm going to, yes. So this is from our students. So when our students did the same exercise as you can see reassuringly that many of the concerns that you have been talking about are actually being mentioned by students as well. So plagiarism, false information, being uncritical, and so on. So I hope that that is to some extent reassuring for you. So the workshop engage, oh, and please can you keep Mentimeter open because we're going to come back and do another exercise on it in a minute. The reason that we use Mentimeter is because it's anonymous. And although we could use the chat in Teams, we find that students tend not to engage with that as much because they don't want to be associated with a particular response. In terms of ethical considerations, the workshop engages participants exploring some of the ethical implications of the use of artificial intelligence, and participants examine ethical dilemmas and moral complexities inherent in AI technologies. Topics of discussion may include issues such as bias and fairness in AI algorithms and privacy concerns related to data collection. By fostering critical reflection and dialogue, the workshop aims to raise awareness of ethical considerations and equip participants with the knowledge and tools to navigate ethical challenges in AI use responsibly. We suggest that one way to promote responsible AI application is through prompt engineering, which involves designing and curating input prompts to guide AI model behavior. So we introduced the concept of prompt engineering and its role in shaping AI outcomes, including mitigating bias, promoting transparency, and enhancing interpretability. So again, I'm just going to ask you to go back to your Mentimeter session. And what I would now like you to do is I'd like you to, you don't slide the scale along, you just click on the point of the scale where you, regarding how good or not you think that these potential prompts might be, with strongly disagree being on the left and strongly agree, I think this is a good prompt, on the right. So again, I'll give you a few moments to do that. Okay, so I can see that we've got 1.4 for the write an essay on the impact of climate change, 2.7-ish on exploring the causes and effects of climate change, and then around 4 for the much more involved prompt, which was again what I'd expect. So the first one is obviously bad because it lacks specificity and clarity. It doesn't provide any guidance on the focus, scope, or specific aspects of climate change to be discussed. So as a result, students may feel overwhelmed by such a broad topic and struggle to organise their thoughts effectively. They may also lack depth or coherence, leading to vague and unfocused responses. With regards to the second question about exploring the causes and effects of climate change, this prompt is okay. It provides some direction by specifying the focus, so the causes and effects of climate change, but it could be improved by adding more specificity and guidance. For instance, specifying certain aspects or factors of climate change to focus on, such as greenhouse gas emissions or deforestation, would help narrow down the scope and provide clearer direction. And then the last one is a good prompt because it's specific and provides clear guidance on the focus, scope, and key aspects to be addressed. It specifies the topic, so the impact of deforestation on biodiversity in the Amazon rainforest, identifies specific areas of interest, so plant and animal species affected, underlying causes and potential solutions, and outlines the expected depth of analysis. So by going over these sorts of prompts with students, it shows them how to get the best information from these sort of the prompts that they write. So prompt engineering is introduced to our workshop participants, and we encourage them to critically evaluate the prompts that they're putting in, promoting responsible and intentional use. And we use the idea of Lowe as a starting point. So Lowe developed the idea of the CLEAR framework for prompt engineering. This concise and user-friendly method is tailored to optimize interactions with the AI tools, especially for beginners. So it comprises 5 essential components: concise, logical, explicit, adaptive, and reflective. And these components provide a systematic approach for students to navigate and develop AI content. The article also delves into the technical aspects of the CLEAR framework and focuses on crafting effective prompts for AI models, and explores how academic librarians can incorporate the framework into information literacy education. Rose suggests that one way in which AI answers can be used in class is by asking students to compare what they themselves have written with an AI generated answer and look at which is better and why. What 2 points could they learn from the AI generated response that would help them improve their work? And how could the assignment question set be improved to allow the student to demonstrate higher order skills such as critical thinking? And that's something that academics need to focus on and that I will be discussing a little later in the presentation. I realise this is quite an involved, quite an information heavy slide, and that you're not going to be able to read it all now. I know the slides are going to be circulated after the conference, but this is just to give you some idea of the roles that AI might be able to play. So a recent paper by Mollick and Mollick outlines various roles of AI in education and their associated pedagogical benefits and risks. This idea of the different modes or roles of prompts is not used in our current workshop, but is a useful one and could be developed further in a future iteration once some of the university assignments that incorporate AI are clearer. Basically, Mollick and Mollick think that AI can take on various roles. For example, AI as tutor for increasing knowledge, AI as coach for increasing metacognition, AI as mentor to provide balanced, ongoing feedback, AI as teammate to increase collaborative intelligence, AI as a tool for extending student performance, AI as a simulator to help with practice, and AI as a student to check for understanding. And I was just curious, I'm going to go back into my Mentimeter presentation, about which of these you think is most beneficial to students, which one you think you would be most likely to promote or use yourselves. So hopefully you can see this and are able to vote on which role you think is the most useful or appropriate for your institution. Just give people a few more moments. So most of you seem to be voting for tool, which assists students in accomplishing tasks effectively. Just to note that there is a risk of students outsourcing thinking rather than engaging in meaningful work. And then the next most popular response seems to be that of coach, which facilitates metacognition by prompting reflection and regulation in enhancing learning outcomes, but there's a risk of the coaching style not matching the student's preferences, and that it could therefore lead to incorrect or unwelcome advice. So our workshop started running in January 2024. So that was in the second semester, as our university increasingly became active in the AI area. It's run once in person and once online, and there haven't been high numbers. There's been about 20 each time, and this has made it easier to facilitate conversation and discussion when running it face to face, and when we run it online, the activities gain quite a lot of traction as well. So we'll have to see how it grows as publicity and our university's approach to AI becomes clearer. But from our evaluation, you can see that the students find the workshop clear, which isn't always easy, obviously, when introducing a concept like AI. And they also agree that they find it useful. So the comments that you can see on the screen now were made by participants in relation to an evaluation question. The most useful aspect of the workshop was. And the comments suggest that the workshop was generally clear in conveying its main points about the use of generative AI in research and academic work. It effectively distinguished between using AI as a support tool and not as a primary research tool. Participants understood how AI can aid their learning and professional growth, and clear explanations were provided on how AI can be appropriately used in academic contexts. The activities were well received, inspiring participants to consider further applications, which reflects the clarity and relevance of the content. To improve, we need to ensure that key points are communicated in straightforward, well-punctuated sentences to avoid any potential confusion, and include more specific examples and case studies on AI's role in research and academic work. In terms of the impact of the workshop, again, these comments were provided by students in response to the evaluation question, how will this help you with your studies? And they back up that this AI tools will be considered in the long term by the participants, and that they got the main aim of the workshop regarding using AI appropriately. For example, they imply that the workshop effectively communicated that AI should support research rather than replace traditional research methods.
I have had a.
It included specific explanations on how AI can be applied to academic work, and the interactive activities were engaging and inspiring. So we need to continue using these engaging activities as they seem to be effective in reinforcing the workshop's content. And we need to maintain a strong focus on ethical use and data privacy to ensure students remain cautious and informed. So I'm now going to go on and talk a little bit about the work that I've been doing with our university's AI working group. So just again to set the scene for this, our director is Rosie Jones, and she very much sees AI as presenting a digital opportunity and a chance for librarians to be front and central to something transformational. She feels that we need to reshape our training and embrace AI literacy and opportunity to strengthen our central and critical role in an institution. So it was her that gave us the opportunity to be involved in this AI university working group. From my perspective, libraries have always been leaders in intelligence in terms of making best use of the tools to surface, collate and use information, and in terms of developing users' skills to best do this. Libraries are therefore the absolute natural drivers for leading on AI. We already have the high-level skills and are already positioned to support the curriculum and have the trusted partnership relationship with students and staff. If libraries are to stay relevant and central to university outcomes with the necessary resource and recognition, then we have to assert our pivotal role in AI leadership with confidence. So therefore, I've been working with our Assistant Director, Digital Transformation, to develop guidelines for students regarding the use of AI. These guidelines aim to establish academic practices, ensuring that AI is employed responsibly within the academic community. So I've first of all created a LibGuide for discussion with this University AI working group, covering what tools can be used, the limitations of the tools, ethical considerations, and academic misconduct. I also employed a huge amount of research in terms of horizon scanning other institutions to see what was being done there. And this has been instrumental in helping to form our eventual policy. So I'm now the special advisor from the student perspective, because obviously in my role I work quite a lot with students to make sure that the guidelines are clear, understandable, and can be easily used by students. And I've also helped to spot gaps in the advice that's due to be launched in September. I'm also involved in my school's working group, the School of Health and Life Sciences AI working group, which aims to incorporate AI-related courses and modules into relevant programs to prepare students for AI-driven industries in health and life sciences. It also looks at reviewing assessment methods to ensure they are clear and fit for purpose and that they support academic integrity as AI evolves. And this is obviously very much where I see myself as being positioned and being able to have an impact. We have a unique opportunity at Teesside as librarians are involved in developing new programmes and have the ability to comment on proposed assessments, module coverage, and so on. So I'm hoping that as I read through the documentation for these modules, I will be able to highlight gaps or inaccuracies or suggest where AI could potentially be used. So my final exercise of the day is to ask yourselves, as fellow people working in this field, what you think librarians can contribute to the curriculum. Just give people a few more moments so that I don't overrun. So quite a lot about the role that we have to play in helping students with critical thinking. Some things about shaping and developing academic skills and using information literacy, to do with plagiarism and referencing correctly, about finding information and making sure that they've appraised it using kind of, critical thinking skills, paraphrasing. So yeah, absolutely. This is really helpful for me because I'll be able to obviously use this when I come to help my school develop their curriculum. So my final few moments are going to be talking about keeping the workshop up to date. So obviously that's going to involve regular reviewing and refreshing of the content, resources and methodologies to ensure relevance and effectiveness in meeting the evolving needs of participants. So I need to make sure that the workshop reflects the latest knowledge trends and best practices within the School of Health and Life Sciences, obviously taking that field and subject matter into account. Continuously evaluating supplementary resources such as case studies to ensure that the workshop remains current and enriching for participants. Seeking input from both my immediate colleagues within the library, but also more widely within IT services and our academic registry, who provide our students with the policies and they also introduce a large number of wider university lives to students, so they need to be involved as well. And also providing opportunities for workshop facilitators to engage in ongoing professional development activities, attending conferences, and staying up to date with emerging research and practices. We're also hoping to use our student engagement assistant team, so that's our student workers going forward, as we expect them to play a major role in supporting their fellow students, as this will be invaluable from a peer-to-peer perspective. Rolling out the university policy itself will require implementing and disseminating new policies or updates across the university community in a systematic and organised manner. That includes policy development, so collaborating with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that we've identified needs, institutional priorities, legal requirements, and stakeholder input. Having a communication plan, so a comprehensive communication strategy to inform the community about the new policy, its rationale, key provisions, implementation timeline, and associated changes. In terms of training and education, there need to be obviously training sessions, workshops, information sessions for staff and students about the new policy and its implications. We also need to ensure that the new policy is documented in official university publications, such as policy handbooks, websites, and intranet portals, making it easily accessible so that people know where to go. And finally, we need to have established mechanisms for monitoring compliance with the new policy, addressing any concerns or questions raised, and periodically evaluating its effectiveness and impact on university operations and culture. So I think that was everything that I was going to say. If I can figure out how to stop sharing, she says. Stop sharing. There we go. So, and I think I've kept time. It's very good.
You have. Very well, Lisa. Well done. Okay, so we'll open the floor to questions now. So we've got one question at the moment in the Q&A, and if anyone else would like to ask a question, please do feel